Hi, my name's Shahana Begum. I'm the Health and Safety Wellbeing Sustainability Advisor at Sullivan, and I've been with the company for 3 weeks, so I'm fairly new.
My name is Beck Dorrington. I'm Senior Health, Safety, Wellbeing and Sustainability Advisor for the North for Sullivan Group. I've been with the business since September last year.
And my name's Ruairi Coffey. I'm the Head of Social Value Skills and People Development for Sullivan Group, and I've been with the business nearly 10 years now.
Wow.
A decade deep.
Part of the furniture.
Yes. Look, we're here today to discuss a little bit around mental health and well-being, what we do in the business, and kind of looking at Mental Health Awareness Week and all the various kind of industry campaigns coming up. Yeah. And I guess just as much as anything, just a bit of a kind of open forum and discussion around mental health. I guess looking at both of you, kind of well-being being in both your titles, what does kind of well-being mean to you in construction?
I think it's everything in construction, really. We have got to look at well-being and mental health. When you look at the statistics in construction, for people that die through work as a result of an accident, but then people that work in construction and sadly take their own lives, the differences in those numbers, it has to be seen differently, because it's every single one is a tragedy, and our industry needs to be taking that seriously, and looking at what we can really do to change those numbers. And that's why I'm really proud of our Smile 360 strategy, because it covers everything. For me personally, I'm lucky that my professional remit allows me to fulfill a personal mission. Having been there myself and having friends and knowing people that have taken their own lives, I can begin to understand and have lived through those moments where you've been at rock bottom. And luckily there's enough distance of time now for me to be able to hopefully be an empathetic, good mental health first aider. And it's an absolute privilege to have somebody confide in you when they are at maybe their lowest point, and that I can support and signpost them to get them the help that they need. And I think I would be doing it anyway, even if I wasn't a mental health first aider, but I have been, proud to, on many occasions, be there for people. And it's just so important, that we have all got somebody that loves us. We've got even more people that like us. And it's about being there for each other. Construction is a family. I've been in construction for 23 years, and there aren't that many places where I go to that I don't know somebody. And we become friends. And we are that family. And so it's about caring for each other, looking out for each other, and doing everything that we can to make sure that, we support each other and wake up tomorrow.
Absolutely. Completely agree. No, it's very true. And I guess that's something it's the running joke in construction, isn't it? Very much so, that there's 2.3 million people in construction, and you go from project to project and you're like, oh, hey, you're here now, because we're so transient, absolutely. And Shahana, how's your kind of thoughts on well-being been formed kind of in your role, and coming from potentially different sectors to myself and Beck?
I think I want to think about work and well-being and home life versus work life. And when we're outside of work, someone might ask, how's work going? And I just wonder if we ask, and I think majority of us do, when we're at work, like, how's your home life going? And there's that balance between the two. which sort of enables us to work at our best and even perform at our best at home as well. So it's sort of attention needs to be paid on both sides, essentially. And when things, unfortunately, just out of no one's control, might go, get some lemons or some challenges, and we both have a responsibility, like the home life has a responsibility of taking care of that person, and actually we have a responsibility over that person. So it's not that, they've come to work now, stop talking about your home life. That's not my responsibility. I think if that person is not fully complete and is not getting what they need in their home life, then that will affect our work life. And then again, on the outside, if somebody is affected by work, then they can't perform as well as they need to do in their home life with their family, with their children, with their sports or whatever they're doing outside. No. So I think we can't just ignore elements of well-being, and I'm really, really, really glad that it's part of my job title. I personally do want to push that, and part of my job role is to just talk to people, and I really, really enjoy that.
Yes, we don't have two different modes, do we? There's no switch that we can flick to go work mode. It's all of those sorts of things, isn't it? Even like your commute into work. If you're running late or whatever, is or you've got things that you're thinking about. There's so many different life events, isn't there, that we go through, getting married, getting divorced, having a baby, and, bereavement, financial worries, there's all those sorts of things, and you can't switch those off when you're at work. Yeah. And it's about understanding that, isn't it, and how that maybe will affect performance and mood, and, being mindful that normal life events, can be very stressful, can be very difficult, and understanding that and looking out for each other when we're on site or in the office.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely, completely agree. And I guess it's an element in our industry, and kind of, I guess it's talked about wider in society, is putting kind of mental health and mental well-being on the same parity as physical health and physical well-being. If you twist your ankle at home, it doesn't mean when you come into work you can just leave your twisted ankle at home, does it? I mean, it's still twisted, and you've got to deal with it for sure. I guess, what have you seen, kind of from your experience, some challenges in our industry around mental health, before we kind of dive more deeper into the whole statistical element of it, just from your own personal experience?
I think I did a year or so living in a tin tent, a caravan. Living away from home, and that, which is something that is quite common in our industry, and I think that is a challenge. And I did think about it beforehand, what is going to be the best way for me to do this, and I decided that a caravan was for me, because I could have my cushions and my fairy lights, and it could be a home away from home. But it's really difficult to then get home and have to cram everything in over a weekend, knowing that you're going to be away again. And that's quite difficult to be an effective parent and partner when you're physically not there. And it's quite lonely as well. You have to, you're somewhere that you don't necessarily know anything about geographically, where are places that you can go and do things. There's a tendency as well, is, depending on your digs, that you're going to meet up in the bar of the hotel, or, and you're spending your evenings in not particularly healthy way. And the boredom, the boredom is a really important one, about how to occupy your time in those evenings. But there's a lot of guilt involved in it as well, because you want to be at home, but it's also about maybe being that breadwinner, figure of the family. But of course, at the moment as well, is that, finances, is that, everybody's struggling. and everybody's having to make adjustments. And when you're away from home, it's, you do feel like you're making a massive sacrifice. And then the pressures of the financial situation that we're all in can make it seem like I'm working away, I'm working long hours, it's physically demanding work, outdoors, and I still don't have enough to pay the bills or, buy the things that my family needs. And, so I think the financial situation, being away from home, for me, I think are big issues in the industry at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, completely agree. And have you seen, Shahana, kind of differences in perception, I guess, around mental health kind of a few years ago compared to now in the industry?
Absolutely. It's there's so much more discussion around it now, and people are sharing some of their stories, and I just think it's really encouraging, because once people share their stories, then you feel sort of, I can relate to this person, and you have this sense of, oh gosh, it's not just me, I'm not alone in this. So I think what we're encouraging now is to talk about it and trying to remove the stigma around mental health, and encouraging honest, open conversations. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think that conversation element is huge. I guess I get a bit frustrated sometimes with the industry for a couple of elements. One, I think we've done a lot of great work. I do think there is a slight element that we are now patting ourselves on the back for how far we've come. And I think there's still quite a lot to do. There's also the other kind of side of the industry where we're trying to change perceptions around mental health, and you start to look at the stats, and kind of anywhere between 58 to 74% of construction workers last year experienced severe stress. In 2021, it showed that the suicide rates had actually grown in the last 5 years. And I understand the frustration, but I guess the accident stats rose and we legislated. We didn't feel like we were inclusive enough. We started running inclusivity programs. Just because there's a challenge there, it doesn't mean that we just stop or we just say, okay, great, now we've got an employee assistance program. Let me signpost you and put the problem over there. I think we need to be very careful about the interventions we bring in, and not take, as you said, the kind of the people-centric approach of having an open culture to have those conversations, away from saying, hey, you're struggling, scan the QR code and go to the EAP. Or this is a toolbox talk for depression. These are the symptoms. If you've got a problem, go and talk to someone. What can we do proactive, I guess, is some of the challenges I would like to see the industry thinking about more.
If you're having a bad day, I'm having a really bad day today. Or things are really good, actually. I think fine and okay should be banned as words because they say nothing. And if somebody asks you, hey, how are you? Respond in the way that somebody has just asked me how I am because they care about me. Mm-hmm. And to respond, to dignify that with that care and respond openly.
Obviously, we're all sitting here, we are mental health first aiders. I feel very lucky, and as you kind of said earlier, privileged as well to be a mental health first aid instructor. We've done a lot of training as well within the business kind of over the last year, and as you know, we do have a pretty ambitious target to have our mental health first aider numbers on kind of parity with our first aider numbers. And again, that not just being head office, but also being our site-based personnel, anyone from your kind of general operatives all the way up to the supervisors. I think just kind of a bit of reflection for myself, what's been really good is to see when I initially started doing this training, you get the kind of prisoner tourist partner. There's one of kind of three ways people engage in the training. People used to come in quite reluctant. Now I'm kind of inundated with people that want to do the training, which I think is a really good culture shift. I mean, I know we've had all our managers across all our departments, all our operations team who deal with our kind of labour workforce on site, they've all been trained up. We had a really good kind of session there last month. It was really, really fantastic. I know both of you are mental health first aiders. How have you found that training? Have you found it's kind of benefited the way in which you engage with people and your kind of general awareness?
Yeah, it's for me, when I did the training, it was because sort of people who have been diagnosed with mental health, illnesses and struggled with mental ill health, has been something that's just been part of my life forever. So for me, the going on the training was more of a confirmation of what I'd experienced in life, but it's such important training to do. Being able to sort of spot the signs in body language, and it's really tuned me into recognizing changes. The outgoing person who is withdrawn, sort of the quiet person that's suddenly, loud and outgoing. I'm very tuned into reading people, and that's something that I use throughout all of my life. Whether I'm at work or outside of work. But it's also taught me about having an appreciation of life. I mean, it's beautiful. Life is beautiful. It's what a ride we're all having. And so the beauty of life and how precious it is, it's how I live, and supporting other people through that. But self-care is really important as a mental health first aider. Is that, it's that thing when you're on a plane, you put your own oxygen mask on first, and it's about maintaining my sense of well-being so that I have got the capacity to give to other people. Because there's no point in two people needing support. I have to keep myself, and that's a really strong motivator, because it's such an altruistic act, to keep myself mentally healthy, because I want to be there for other people. So that's really important.
No, absolutely, yeah, completely agree with that. Keeping yourself on the level, and I guess for me sometimes it's that perception around the word selfish, that what, sometimes you just need to be selfish. I mean, for me, some days, weekends, I'm just like, no, I'm turning off the phone, I'm going to a park, I'm sitting down, music's on blast, and I'm taking some me time, and you know what, that's okay. And I think kind of in the role of a mental health first aider, understanding that and being able to empower those kind of conversations is very important. Shahana, how have you found your experience as a mental health first aider?
Initially, when I started the course, I went into it really apprehensive. I wasn't sure what I'm getting myself into. But actually, the course is so informative that I can use that inside of work, outside of work, and it's made me sort of open up my vision, or what areas am I looking at? I'm actually looking at it with a wider lens at people, at myself, at my friends, my family. So yeah, it's really skilled me to carry on and genuinely ask, how are you, and have a conversation, spotting the signs and symptoms. And I think if you're undergoing something quite stressful in your life, from my experience, when I am going through something like this, my vision I get tunnel vision, and I am unable to spot, what's the right thing to do here? And so what the course has enabled me to make some choices that's going to help me. And I only did this with you, Beck, the other day. I said to Beck, I'm going through this. Can you keep an eye on me? And good. I just knew that's what I needed to do before I get into the thick of it. So yeah, definitely it's benefited myself, and I hope I get to help other people while I've got the training.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And yeah, for me as an instructor, that's something I love to see. I love coming back to people kind of 6 months down the line, and more often than not, people will say I learned more about myself on the course than anything, and it forces you to kind of have that introspective look, and it brings home something I might get you to talk about it really, but because I know it's something you're passionate about, with the whole idea of living authentically.
Yeah, I think it is really important. I quite often, well, I am known for singing Frozen, Let It Go. It's not healthy to keep things in,
No, definitely not.
And to everything that you're going through is precious because it's yours. It's your experience, it's your feelings and thoughts, and I've found that, sort of personal experience is that things don't go away. I remember saying to somebody once, I just want to go away. I want to go somewhere else. And they said to me, you're only changing geography. And that has kind of stuck with me, is that, problems are there. And by living authentically, if you're having a bad morning because the traffic was awful and you're running late for a meeting and just say that. Don't internalize that stress and that pressure. And people understand when you do that. It's that dealing with things in the moment. The little niggles, the annoyances, even like, sort of in a relationship, things fester, and there's many a divorce that has happened because of a cap being left off a toothpaste tube, It's all those things, isn't it? And it's things build. And if you live authentically, I think you kind of become in tune with yourself, and you can deal with those things before they become a major issue. And so that's why self-care is so important. And this year's theme for Mental Health Awareness Week about movement is that, movement is so good for you. It's releasing all those endorphins, it's getting out, it's a sense of accomplishment, whether you're improving on your personal best of whatever it is that you're doing. There's so many reasons why it is good for you. It's important, to have that self-care. And when we think about the 5 ways to well-being, one of them is be active. And there's so many ways that we can do that. I know, Shahana, you're far braver than me, but wild swimming is your thing, isn't it?
Really?
No.
Oh,
It is, yes.
Oh, okay.
I like to jump in the sea, and the colder the better.
Wow, well done.
Yes. I'm not that brave.
Have you found that become an important thing to you now, that it's become a passion?
It's one of those things. So when I first started, it's with a group. Mm-hmm. So it not only just gave me movement, and now I've got a group of people that I can find out. I can have a chat with them. They bring, snacks afterwards, and we change into our suits together and then sort of dry off together. So it brings sort of lots of chats and laughter. Mm-hmm. You get into the water, it's freezing. Yeah. Lots of expletives and lots of hooping and howling. Mm-hmm. It's really fun. And then you've got the cold water. It's like a shock. It's really fun. You do a bit of swimming, not too much. So you can movement. There's not much movement, but it's a little bit of movement. And I don't want to make it out as if it's I don't even do 100 meters, and you don't have to do 100 meters. It's just a short space of time. Jump in the water, jump out, and it gives me so much. Yeah.
That's brilliant, and it's great to see the value that comes out of it. And I think that's important when we talk about activity. We talk about well-being, like swimming. You don't have to go and swim 20 laps, right? I'm doing the couch to 5k at the moment, so I'm still only running 5-minute intervals, and I'm on week 5. But I never thought I'd say it. I'm actually starting to enjoy it, getting out in nature. But it's finding something that works for you, right? And it doesn't have to be running ultra marathons. It kind of doesn't have to be anything like that. It's finding what works. We know the physical activity is kind of a certain amount, kind of maybe a half an hour a day, kind of 115 minutes a week, can actually scientifically be linked to being as effective a treatment for mild depression as actual medication.
Absolutely.
So I think it's about not underestimating kind of that and the power the body has, the movement has. So yeah, no, great points. What's your favourite activity outside of cold water plunging? What's your kind of preferred methods of self-care?
My favourite of the 5 ways to wellbeing that works for me is taking notice. I am a fluffy hippie. I don't know if you've gathered that, but I'm a fluffy hippie. And for me, being out in nature, I am fascinated by how everything has got a relationship, a dependency to some level. And so I like going out and getting in as close as I can to the little stuff. I've spent ages just watching ants going about their business. It's that kind of calms my mind, and I am an unashamed biophiliac. I'm a big fan of biophilia, that connection of us and Earth. Everything that we are made of, our chemical composition is of this Earth. And so for me, having that connection, I have to walk on grass every day in barefoot. It grounds me. The just being part of this beautiful planet, and the environment. And I think we've all got that. I think that we all have that sense of wonder. I mean, you only had to see that over the weekend with the Northern Lights.
I missed them.
That we have all got the capacity to appreciate everything that's around us. And the best bit is it's free. It's there. So yeah, I take time out. I will sit there and work out how many shades of green are on a tree. It's a bit weird,
Nice.
but it
It works,
stills
yeah.
me.
No, and that's important. Like you said, look, it works for you, it brings you happiness, and I think that's a huge element. How have you what's been your ways to well-being?
Yeah, I'm learning how to play the piano, and I am
Wow.
grade 1 or 2, let's say 2, and just such so much fun, so challenging, such a mental challenge, but my teacher is amazing, and we play tunes that are familiar, and they've simplified them so that beginners can get into it easier. And once I finish doing a piece, some of them are just like 2 lines, and there's so much joy in going through this, notes on a sheet and then turning it into a tune. That brings me so much joy. So yeah, let's hope I keep that up. I've been practicing every day.
Oh, fantastic! Well done. That's
But learning is, that's so important for us as well. Is that it's developing us. It's there's that kind of sense of accomplishment and achievement. But again, is that if you're thinking about hobbies, mastering a hobby, or is professionally, developing ourselves, and moving forwards and improving our chances or our ability, our pay packet ultimately. But it's and being proud of what you do. Learning it keeps our brains functioning. Even things like the crossword or whatever. It's it's, again, really important
I
for
love a
us.
crossword.
I'm big into obviously keeping connected with people. Obviously I'm from Ireland, if you can't tell by the accent. Apparently it's easier to understand these days, so it's all good. But I obviously have a lot of friends I grew up with at home. I've kind of got my little cousins, I've got my parents, my grandparents all at home. So for me, it's kind of staying in touch with all of them. I love my career, so I'm probably guilty of not going home as much as I'd like. So it's keeping that time to kind of have those conversations, connect with people. Even kind of some of my best friends work out on site for us that I moved over here with. So it's, again, they're working long shifts. I'm kind of all over the country. It's actually prioritizing kind of carving some time out with them. So I do like that as well. It's always a good feeling, no matter how physically demanding it is at the time. With kind of some of the giving back. I know we've done it as the business, obviously, with social value kind of being one of my areas within the business. It's a lovely feeling to go out and engage with those communities, kind of reaching diverse entrants, or kind of trying to bring in diverse communities, people who've been kind of long-term unemployed, seeing them come in and kind of start to achieve potential with us. I remember one instance where we were working with this project, Buses for Homeless. And we met this man who'd been homeless for quite some time. And part of the volunteering was to go in and help him train to get his CSCS card so he could work on site. So he came in, he kind of got a job with us. 3-4 months later, I saw him on site and I was like, "Hey, how are you?" Reaches into his pocket, pulls out this set of keys. And he's like, "I just signed the lease on my first house in like 4 or 5 years." So like really amazing moments. Kind of stuff like that, all the way to some of the charity stuff we did with Great Ormond Street Hospital, climbing the Yorkshire Three Peaks, did the National Three Peaks, we've done Mount Snowdon. DSG loves a good physical challenge, don't we? Which I think is good, right? Because it's all linked in, and the theme is
movement.
Exactly. There you go. So yeah, so it all kind of links in inadvertently. So I think that's been good.
And connecting again. That's that's really important for us. I mean, we're pack animals. We need each other. We depend on each other, and loneliness is a well, I mean, you can be lonely in a crowded room, but it's a state of mind. But we do need to have those connections, and giving as well. We are altruistic, as that's we're empathetic. That's what makes humans. I mean, they've used that as the first evidence of humanity. Where they found healed bones, from Lord knows how many years ago. That shows humanity, care for each other, and giving is, it's good for other people, but it makes you feel good as well. Is that, knowing that you have done something, and that feeds back into connecting, that sense of community, of being part of you're a family or a tribe or whatever, a pack. It's a unifier. It's just really important.
I don't know. I think it's hard for a man to say he's lonely. I think a construction site with the right team can be one of the best, like you said, socially engaging places in the world. The crack, the laugh can be top notch, but also, like you said, living away for a long time on your own, at times, working long hours and moving, being not from this country means you're not kind of settled in one place where you can build that community. I think it is so hard for a man to put his hands up and say, "I'm lonely."
Yeah.
As hard as it is to speak up about anything else. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to talk about, but yeah, it's just it's one of those things. I think it's a challenge. That how do we do that? How do we challenge that, right? And how do we give people those skills? And I'm going to probably digress here for a second. The importance of knowing yourself, knowing yourself and being bold enough for those conversations, and it touches on that living authentically, right? I know I'm playing into the complete Irish stereotype here. If I was having a bad day years ago, I probably would have gone and used the simple Irish coping mechanisms. I'd be like, "Do you know what? I'm going to go have 6, 8, 10 pints. I'm going to wake up in the morning and deal with it then." Really, I'd wake up feeling worse and the problem's still a problem, right? So I think the whole idea around loneliness, the living authentically bit, needs to be very important. Like, do you know your principles, not just as a man, as a human? Do you know what elements of yourself you're proud of? Are you okay? Like, you probably know a bit around shadow work, right? What are the areas of yourself you don't like so much? What can you do to develop them? And then the whole fight, the kind of ways to well-being. What are the systems you use to keep yourself in a good place? And looking at them honestly, are they positive? Are they negative? And if they're negative, like, is there an alternative?
I think I mean, I've been delivering mental health and, you know, well-being training for a number of years now. So I don't know if I'm a bit skewed on it. But I struggle with in saying that men don't talk about mental health, because when I've done the training, if I was delivering a briefing about work at height, it's a struggle to get people engaged and
Yeah,
on
for
board.
sure.
But whenever I do mental health and well-being briefings and training, it's the most engaged sessions, and everybody has pipes up and, you know, gets involved. And so I don't think it's, you know, from my experience, I don't think it's men don't talk about mental health. I think men need more opportunities to talk about their mental health. If we make it a normal part of the conversation, which again comes back to living authentically. You know, if you're having a great day, shout about it. If you're having a bad day, then share that. You know, and because that is your truth, and being open is the way to go. Like I say, hundreds of times a day, we start the conversation about somebody's mental health because we say, "Hey, how are you?" Well, that is saying, I care about you. I'm interested in knowing that you're okay. And so respond to that care. And those little things, I think, will make a difference. It's not a massive game changer, but it's about showing care.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And even kind of going back to my own job role, right? We talk a lot around diversity and inclusion, and creating an inclusive environment. And I think that's no different than creating an environment where well-being is embedded, because if you strip diversity, inclusion back, you strip well-being back, it's about creating that human approach, isn't it? That we have more in common than we have different. Everyone's going through things. It's relative to you, I think, as one of you excellently said. So you shouldn't feel inferior that you're going through it. And it's being able to kind of have that strength to acknowledge that. Around that kind of whole well-being culture, Shahana, what's been your experience since you came into the Sullivan group? Have you seen things about our kind of well-being culture that you like?
Since I've started, I've had to do countless inductions, probably 5, and then some of them have like further inductions just to go out on site. And I'm really pleased to say every single one of them had discussed mental health. And I think, just to go back to your earlier question, are there changes? There's such a drive on mental health, and everyone was promoting, talking, and this idea of loneliness. And there's also sort of like a unrealistic, ideological construction man, you know, comes in, head down, does his work, goes home. That's no fun. And that's unrealistic, and it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be like that. So, yeah. When I did all those inductions, I was like, wow, I'm so pleased to see all this content around mental health. And I've been in the industry 6 years, and it wasn't like this when I started.
No, brilliant. Yeah, it's great. It's really good to kind of see that change, I think, isn't it? The same when I started on site, it was health and safety. And even then it was pretty much just kind of safety. Then it was like, okay, put on a mask. And you know, it's slowly grown. And yeah, it's been really good to kind of see. How have you found kind of the wellbeing culture across the projects you look after, kind of in the Sullivan group?
I mean, what I love about Danny Sullivan is that, you know, I mean, it's a family business, but that family element of it is so strong, and that includes everybody, no matter what you're doing, where you are in the UK. You're part of the family, and that's really strong for me. I feel very supported, and I certainly feel that I can be my authentic self, you know, and that it's celebrated as well. You know, that's a lovely feeling to be accepted so completely, and that's really important for well-being, you know, because it gives you that feeling of security, of kinship, of connection. And over the last sort of 23 years I've been doing this, and there's been a huge change, but there has, but there hasn't. Because I think at the core of it, there's always been people that they have always looked out for each other. You know, Danny Sullivan's a family business, but throughout our industry, there are fathers and sons and grandsons, and you know that work together. So there is that kinship all over the place in the industry, and I have worked around an awful lot of supportive people, and this stereotype of, you know, sort of male construction worker, I've seen so many instances where people have cared for each other and have looked out for each other. You know, the construction industry is a family, and you know we should be protective over that, but we need to do more, and that's what I really like about our Smile 360 strategy, is that it is looking at supporting the whole individual, and all those different elements that make us who we are, you know, all those things that are either stressors or, you know, opportunities to develop. And it's brilliant, because it's not just it's not seen as a control measure, for mental ill health. It's proactive, it's maintaining, it's improving somebody's ability, to be the best that they can be.
Yeah, no, absolutely, completely agree. And yeah, I guess that's where that kind of whole conversation around Smile originated from. It's not just toolbox talks and briefings, right? It's Smile. It's looking at kind of the social, mental, individual living and kind of economic elements of well-being. It's that 360 idea that I think, Shahana, you touched on it at the start of this conversation. We're not one person in work and we're one person outside of work, right? So we are one. We are one for that 24 hours, 365 for the duration of our lives. So what can we do as an employer, understanding where our sphere of control is, that will actually benefit that person inside and outside of work? And it's like, again, kind of coming back to what I said earlier, rather than saying, hey, these are the symptoms, this is the treatment, this is where you go to get help. It's actually, what can we give you that this doesn't necessarily occur? And it's kind of even looking at the economic elements of it. So looking at where we're doing briefings, where we're creating e-learning packages around what credit ratings are, the difference versus a high street lender versus going to your bank, and really trying to educate people with tools so it's like well-being without thinking you're being taught about well-being, right? And it's little tools that you can implement in your day-to-day life. Not everything will be applicable to everyone, but it's listening to the workforce and engaging with them and kind of building topics based on that gives them that better day-to-day resilience. Understanding your stress container, the importance of sleep hygiene, all these kind of elements, like the individual elements. Like we said, what are your values? Do you understand yourself? And you're like, what's this got to do with my brain? When actually, if you understand that better, you have a greater sense of self-worth, greater sense of self-purpose. You understand your drivers, your career ambitions. Everything's intrinsically linked. And yeah, just getting to go out and have those kind of conversations, I think, have been really good. You start and you're like, okay, we're going to give you a wellbeing briefing. What are your ambitions? And everyone's like, what? and seeing people thrown like that in the conversations it throws up, and actually giving people space to kind of explore themselves in that space in a safe way has been really good and really different.
I think I really enjoy delivering our financial wellbeing briefings, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from people who share, you know, how they've made savings, and and there's so much in it that we can do, and I think you know, we need to have you know, control over our own destiny in a way, and that, you know, particularly at the moment with the economic situation, is that, you know, that we feel sometimes that we are out of control. Things are happening that affect us that we don't necessarily have much control over change. But our financial briefing, wellbeing briefing, that it gives you those pointers, because, you know, financial literacy is something that we're really poor on, and I find that those sessions are so empowering to support people to be able to take greater control of a situation that there's so many parts of it that we aren't, you know, we're on the receiving end of, you know, and it's life, but not having enough money or not feeling competent enough to manage your finances, you know, those are all things that mean that you feel out of control, and then that can lead to feeling helpless, which then follows on to feeling hopeless. So gaining control, and the Smile resources enable people to assess and gain control in so many areas of life, and that is just, again, improving or maintaining, you know, your own sense of well-being.
Exactly. And it's that skills-based approach again, isn't it? And it's like you said, financial literacy is just, it's not there. And it's not because all construction workers left school at 16 and aren't educated. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about degree level down to entrance level in construction, for the one reason we don't build it into the education system. Mm-hmm. We don't have a coherent set of resources. And as such, it's one of the biggest causes of stress for not just UK construction workers, but for the UK population. So I think it's really good, and like you said, really proud to have it as an organisational approach within Danny Sullivan Group. I'm a mental health first aid instructor. Having mental health first aiders are all good, but if you don't have the right organisational structure and support behind it, it's like training up 6 carpenters and then putting them to site without a project team or any drawings. It's not going to work. And I don't think it should be used as a band-aid. I think as a business you need to be really clear and really intentional with what you're trying to do. Have you heard of the Netflix paradox?
No.
So yeah, I think it's a really important point around well-being, and it's something someone shared with me as well. The businesses use, sometimes we try and bring in so many interventions that we end up defaulting back to the original state. And it's like on Netflix, when you have so many choices of TV shows, that you just end up putting on the same show that you've watched a million times.
Now, do you know, where I live, I can't get Uber Eats because I live in the countryside. And there was this one time I was in London for in a hotel that didn't have a restaurant. And I thought, oh, I'll do this Uber Eats thing. And I ended up having no tea.
There you go.
Because my mind was just completely blown by options and I couldn't cope. I was just like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, it's okay. I've got a bag of crisps in my bag. That'll do.
And that's exactly it, you know. So that's the challenge. It's like, as an employer, don't be like, okay, we're going to trial this now. Here's one QR code for this. Here's this for this. No, be really clear, be really direct. This is what we're going to do. Engage with your teams. Speak to them. Is this working? Have you actually used it? Do you find it beneficial? Cool. What else is stressing you out? How can we support that? We can't fix everything, but we can be assured through kind of engagement. And like we said, listening to people, that what we're doing is the right approach as employers. And I think any responsible and kind of sustainable business should be looking to do that, not just for talent attraction, not just for retention, but just in terms of being comfortable that you are a good employer and that's what you want to be doing.
You know, when somebody is feeling helpless, it's about, you know, what employers can do is, you know, understanding the blockers, because when you're feeling helpless or lonely or whatever it is, you know, you're struggling, is that, you know, there are these things that, you know, blockers that you kind of know what it is that you need to do, you know, to solve or help make the situation better. And it's about understanding your workforce, I think. You know, if you've got a lot of people that are new to the UK, you know, on some of these major schemes, there are thousands of people that have moved to the UK to be a part of it. How do you open a UK bank account? How do you register for a GP? Where are the local places that, you know, for leisure facilities? It's and it's, I think, what is so important, and I don't think it happens enough, is though all of those things, you know, oh, you've got a company-wide gym membership, lovely, that's an abstract, you know, that is beyond. Make it specific. You know, we've got a company discount with this gym, and this is where it is in relation to the project site. Remove those blockers, make it as close to the person and as easy as it can be to access all those resources that they can use outside of work or to establish themselves in the UK. You know, and that goes a long way, I think. You know, we even though we're adults, we still will always need somebody that we can hold their hand, you know, and go, help. And I think that, you know, by being empathetic and being supportive of each other, is that anticipating that need for somebody to have their hand held, you know, and make it as easy as possible for people to deal with those normal events before they turn into a big problem. You know, it's a simple one, surely.
So yeah, it's been really great to see some of the things we've kind of done across the business over the last few years, in addition to what you were saying about the financial wellbeing booklets, but actually getting financial experts in to talk to our workforce about credit ratings, about kind of managing your money, high risk, low risk investment. So really giving them that all encompassing approach. Getting people like Gamblers Anonymous in as well, who I saw a really fantastic response from, and really just our own capability within the business now of taking the things we've seen working well and looking at how we create cohesive learning packages around different topics that aren't just open to our workforce, but they're also kind of going to be available through our training division, the DSG Academy, and having that ability to offer that to other businesses based on us learning what worked and what didn't, and being able to kind of grow that throughout the industry has been great. And I mean, Shahana, I know kind of in the health and safety team as well, there's a lot of kind of resources and supports you've put together.
Yep, our supervisors have access to a whole range of toolbox talks and briefings. We work closely with charities to cater to our diverse workforce, and we also work closely with our clients and suppliers to sort of meet the needs and keep the discussions going and just
Yeah,
supporting where the support is required.
yeah, no, it's brilliant. I know you two are very busy, kind of across all the well-being working groups and actually getting out there, and that's great. It's really living that Danny Sullivan group kind of ethos of people-centric approach, being at the coalface and really collaborating, should I say? Because I mean that's what it's all about. And I think we spoke about it outside as well. It's not about gatekeeping what works to your own business. It's about kind of sharing it within the industry. And I guess if you had to pick one kind of piece of advice in line with kind of mental health awareness, week or month?
Week.
Okay, thank you. I keep forgetting. If you had to pick kind of one piece of advice to give employers and organisations, given that it's Mental Health Awareness Week, kind of what would it be?
A little framework of how I live my life. So the first one's connect. Like I say, we need each other. We depend on each other, and so seeking out those connections. That could be, saying, "Do you want to go for a cup of tea?" It could be, joining a book club or whatever. It just finding your kin, and support, knowing who you've got that you can support and who can support you. So connect is really important. My favourite, take notice. There's so much that is out there. For me, it really stills my mind to appreciate the things that are around me. It's not uncommon for me to cry at a sunset because I'm so moved by it. But taking notice, it gives you that opportunity to appreciate life and how beautiful it is. Keeping active, again, really good. The theme of this year's Mental Health Awareness Week about movement, being physically active can help our mental health. It gives us the opportunity as well to connect with other people. It gives us an opportunity to take notice, and so that's that. But keeping active, you feel better for it. It's taking my dog for a walk. That's my movement. But for me, in that is I'm taking notice of the route that I'm taking. I find a lot of joy in seeing how much joy she finds about, finding something to sniff, and how excited she gets. So keeping active, keeping learning. I'm at the moment I'm doing my leadership and management training through the DSG Academy. It's always really important to learn something, to have that interest. It keeps you connected with life, that to never lose that sort of wanting to explore, and wanting to learn. Why does that do that? And, that comes naturally to us in health and safety because, we're looking at root causes, but why? Why is that? How did that happen? That's an important part of us. Again, that adds to our sense of space and place of where we are. It gives us an opportunity to improve our situation as well. And giving is so important as well. Is that we in this country, it doesn't ever surprise me when I see the huge sums of money that we raise for things like comic relief and children in need. Even though we are all struggling, that doesn't really change the amount of money that's raised, because we all know, or we can understand what it is like to not have what we have. We want to look after each other and support. But it's not just about money, you know. It could be giving your time by volunteering. It could be giving your time by sharing your knowledge, you know, by being a mentor at work. You know, it could be all sorts of things, you know, being part of your community, giving your time, getting involved in litter picking or local organisations, that your skills and knowledge might be something that a charity or a community group is desperate for. And so you can be a part of that. And that feeds back into connection. It could also, depending on what it is, be being active, you know, taking notice. All of these are linked together. So for me, I am going to be spending this week doing 5 ways to well-being as much as possible. But I'm going to take notice by focusing in and banking to my memory what each of these moments are and how they fit in.
Nice, no, brilliant. I think that's a good kind of call to action, really, is to pay more attention to it this week and how we embed it. I really just want to kind of come back as well to something you said around the whole kind of learn element, right? You're talking about leadership and management, and I think this is such a key point kind of around mental health. In construction, it's what those skills look like at the end of the day, and it's about equipping people to be as resilient, productive, engaged and successful as they can be. And kind of we talk a lot about the academy now, the DSG Academy, and yes, we're doing all the core technical training, you're doing your vocational qualifications, we're doing the CATBs, the EUSRs, but there's a whole kind of ambition growing suite we're doing around, I hate the word soft skills, I'm going to say non-technical skills. So leadership and management, right? Effective communication, right? Inclusive behaviours, driving those in our kind of frontline supervisors and offering targeted training around that. Because in construction we often promote based on duration and technical knowledge. We don't promote then later on, nor do we develop often, the management skills, the effective, all those kind of areas that let your teams be happy and engaged. We don't give people those skills enough. And it's great to kind of see that as a growing offering. And it's great to kind of be engaging with so many businesses and companies through the academy who are actually coming through for that on equal proportions as your CATB courses, as your formwork qualifications. And I think it does show a shift in mentality. And I guess just being so heavily involved in the academy, I really look forward to seeing that element of it grow and kind of seeing more of our workforce take part in it, and more of the UK kind of construction sector come and have those conversations with the academy about how we can support them. Shahana, obviously being new to the business, what have you seen within Danny Sullivan Group that you kind of liked, that kind of made it easier for you, even kind of looking at your stress levels and stuff as someone coming into the business? Because new job can be quite stressful kind of first few days.
Definitely, I was really nervous, and I remember having a sort of nosy around the website, and I did come across that financial booklet, and I was like, well, that's really useful, and that's quite different. I haven't seen that anywhere else. So yeah, things like that helped me make my decision. And once I got in, everything was sorted out for me, my laptop, my phone, my car, and there was just such a nice sense of everyone was talking about each other with such pride. Just talking about each other really nicely. So it just made me think that, I think I've definitely made the right decision. And then they did something different where not other companies do, where I had meetings with departmental leads, and they would explain to me what they do. And to be honest, I might have gone through the industry not knowing what certain departments do. I didn't know what this bid list, I think it's a bid list. I had no idea they were doing that, and that's so essential to what we do. So I really appreciated that. It made me got to meet the faces behind the names and how each part of each department plays into our sort of IMS.
Brilliant. Just, I guess, one more kind of question for me on that point is, how important do you feel relationships are to kind of well-being and connection? Do you think there's a big importance there, and do you think it's something that we do well as a business?
So that was my first impression of coming into Danny Sullivan. I'd like to say we do it well. We've got really good job retention rate, and that inspires me and also solidifies my decision into, yes, you've made the right decision.
Okay, good.
I think the thing that I really loved when I joined was having those meetings with all the department heads and everybody, is that it was so lovely, because it was, this is my department, this is what I do, this is how I can support you in your role, and this is how you can support me in my role. And it, from sort of the first day, it was really highlighting how dependent we were on each other, and that it was, just the embodiment of collaboration and that family.
Oh,
It was lovely.
Good. Right, so before we finish up, I guess I'd like to ask you both, what's kind of one of the takeaways or one of the considerations you would like kind of employers to take on board for this week, considering it is Mental Health Awareness Week? Shahana, kind of, what are your thoughts?
I want to say be brave. Be brave to embrace the topics that people aren't talking about, the stigmatized topics, something that is so brave to open yourself up, expose yourself to your vulnerabilities. Be brave in finding a sports group, a community group, entering that space. That is being really, really brave, because it's a scary thing to do. Put yourself in a position of a place that you don't know who they are, you don't know how they're going to respond, you don't know if you're going to like it. So I think that's really key to employers and employees.
Yeah, fantastic. Beck?
I think my message would be to encourage, I would say demand, but I don't know if that's too strong a word, but I would go with encourage. Encourage everybody to live that authentic life. We are all unique, brilliant individuals, and that celebrate that individuality, support that individuality, because I think if you can live your authentic self and know that that is accepted, then you can do anything. I think it's the only way. So yeah, encourage people to be themselves.
Oh, brilliant. I guess my one takeaway for kind of construction employers, given that it's Mental Health Awareness Week, is don't gatekeep, don't be afraid to share. Good workforce well-being isn't something that's going to win tenders or going to win jobs. We all do it as responsible employers because it's the right thing to do. If you know something works well, then share it, and let's truly collaborate on something. And I think if we do that and we save one life, then it's going to be a success.
You don't have to like everybody that you work with, but even if you don't like them or you don't understand them, be precious of the fact that somebody does love them and like them. And so that care, even if you don't feel like giving it, give it because they are precious to somebody. And support each other. Just be there for each other. Notice changes and intervene. And remember, it's not about saying, hey, how are you? It's, I care about you. And I want you to be able to tell me if you're needing support.
I think for me, I would like people to not view any of the sort of lines or rules that we've created as rigid. And maybe there's something that we've missed and that can be raised and we can accommodate for that sort of thing. We were just talking about we need a tax advisor. We need that sort of thing. And how can we accommodate the needs? And if we as safety people can't spot that, then we need the workforce to raise that, and we encourage them to come to us and raise it, because there's probably something that we can do about it, and I don't want anyone to think that the walls are so rigid or the rules are so rigid.
That we can't help. No, absolutely. I guess, yeah, I want to ask for the whole kind of 2+ million workforce of construction is, in this industry, we're going to spend more time at work than we are at home with our family and our loved ones. And I would rather feel awkward and ask someone, how are you, than not ask them and have to deal with them not being there the next day. So
if you are struggling, there are so many ways to get support. This is not a paid advertisement, but there's an app called the Hub of Hope, and it's a database of local support on all manner of issues. It is an absolute genius app, because everything is there. So particularly if you're a mental health first aider, that resource is fantastic. The Samaritans are always there.
I guess as well, just for our workforce, it's important as well. They remember we also do have our own employee assistance program, which in addition to all the great stuff Beck already alluded to, does give you kind of completely free and, most importantly, anonymous access to a whole host of supports, advice, kind of places you can go to. And also it can give you and your family members up to kind of 4 to 6 free sessions of counselling. So I would always implore someone, if you genuinely don't feel comfortable starting a conversation with someone kind of in your immediate circle, the resources are there for you to go and get help and keep it completely anonymous. So please just do be brave and speak up.